couldn't be any more right. Watch this.
All right, let's see it.
Your genetic code, it's a double helix that right turns, and there are these sulfur bridges in the midst of every single atom that you have that has a code. And what happens is every 10 there's a bridge, and then every 5 there's a bridge, and then every 6 there's a bridge,
Here we
and
go.
every 5 there's a bridge, and then it repeats over and over and over and over again. And that's a part of your DNA, that's a part of my DNA. This is something that we just recently discovered. This whole thing of 10, 5, 6, 5. Well, what is amazing is with the numbers actually correspond with Jewish letters. The number, if you notice that there's 2 number 5s, both of those are H's. And then if you'll notice that the number 10 is a Y and the number 6 is a W, is how the Jews spell Yahweh. And God's name is literally written in your DNA.
So these claims originate with a man named Yeshayahu Rubinstein, who claims in a video in 2014, that's the earliest I can find these claims published anywhere, to have looked at DNA molecules under a microscope in the 1980s and discovered these sulfur bridges and these sequences of 10, 5, 6, 5, and then to have published an article about it in the journal Nature in 1986. And there are 3 problems with these claims. The first is that no such article exists in any issue of Nature from anywhere near 1986. The second problem that exists is that DNA imaging using electron microscopes started in 2012. The third main problem is DNA has absolutely no such sulfur bridges whatsoever, much less anything that occurs in a sequence of 10, 5, 6, 5. Sulfur bridges are used for DNA packing in certain proteins. They are also used in biotechnology to stabilize DNA in certain environments, but they do not exist within DNA, and they do not exist in any such repeating patterns. This is 100% made up.
Okay, we see there's 2 number 5s and there's 2 H's. The word for both of those is behold, behold. The symbol for the Y is a hand, and the symbol for the W is a nail. The name Yahweh means behold the nails in my hands.
So here we see this notion that the characters of the Hebrew alphabet all have additional significance that can be evoked with any given use of a character that descend from the ideographs from which the characters of the Hebrew alphabet evolved. And this concept originates in post-biblical mystical streams of Judaism, and today we largely see it among Christians who want to learn Hebrew as a hobby to make the Bible more interesting. And there are absolutely no data whatsoever that support the notion that any Hebrew characters used in the Hebrew Bible were intended to bear additional significance associated with those ideographs from which these characters descended. And even if we do look at the earliest use of that idea of that additional significance, the meanings that are being proposed here don't match that significance, nor do they match the actual ideographs from which these characters descended. The Semitic alphabet, when it was developed between Sinai and Phoenicia, became an acrophonic alphabet, meaning that each letter represented a sound, and each sound was based on the word that the letter looked like. So the letter Beit was based on a picture of a house, which was the word Beit in the Northwest Semitic languages, and so that word begins with a ba sound, and so the picture of the house represents the sound ba. So each character just represents a sound. Now it descends from an ideograph that in earlier periods could represent the entire idea, but by the time we get to the Hebrew Bible, those earlier ideas are gone. But when we look at the Hey, it does not mean behold. It comes from an Egyptian hieroglyph of a person with 2 upraised arms. And so it actually, in its earliest use in the Semitic alphabet, was used to represent an interjection, either of joy or of sadness. So ah, or ha, or maybe one of immediacy, ho, or something like that. It absolutely does not mean behold. Now, the Yod does descend from an ideograph that represented a hand. But again, by the time we get to the Hebrew Bible, the concept of the hand is not evoked by each use of the character. The Vav does not represent a nail. The Vav actually descends from an ideograph that represented a mace. That's what it's supposed to look like. But we later get this alteration where the character is referred to as a Vav or a Wow in reference to the hooks that are mentioned in the book of Exodus to hang the curtains of the temple. And so originally it would have been a mace, and then when the character is named in Hebrew, it takes the name from the concept of a hook on which you would hang a curtain. It does not mean nail. None of these characters actually bear that additional significance. That is something that Christians have made up as a part of this hobbyist level studying of Hebrew to make the Bible more exciting. This is pure and utter nonsense. The best discussion of the origins of the characters of the Semitic alphabet is Gordon Hamilton's book, The Origins of the West Semitic Alphabet in Egyptian Scripts, and you should definitely not go look for this PDF on libgen.is.